Well, hello, and welcome to the NFL Contest Show. I'm your host, Jesse Flynn. Can you believe it? We're already on week 9 of the NFL season, the midway point. Week 8, I went 4-1. I felt good to get back on the winning track after a couple of tough weeks. Overall, in the Circa Millions, I'm sitting at 27, 12-1, 27.5 points. 30 points at the end of week 9 is where I'd like to be. More than that is just that much better heading for that final $1 million overall prize. But hey, it's week 9. We've got some interesting games to choose from this week. Some really strange drama going on. The NFL is like a soap opera. There's so many different storylines that each week gives you. So I'm gonna go through and pick out the 5 games that I like for week 9 of the NFL contest. So the first game that I like is the Denver Broncos plus 10 heading out to Jerry's World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. I just think this line is just incredibly inflated. The Dallas Cowboys are perfect against the spread, so the books are definitely cooking that in, and they're jacking up the number on this game to really make you have to choose if you want to try to continue to ride that, the Dallas Cowboys trend and continue to see if they can cover the spread for, I think, what would be 8 weeks in a row now. And, I'm a big fan of Teddy Covers. Teddy Bridgewater's made me a lot of money over the last couple seasons. He's excellent against the spread. I just think that with Dak coming back, the books are also expecting a lot of that Dallas money, and we've seen it. Dallas is getting a decent amount of the money in the bets right now. I just think that the books are just trying to protect themselves against all the people that have been making money off of them the last 8 weeks of the season, the last 7 games the Cowboys have played and covered. They're just jacking this number up. The Denver Broncos look like they're going to be getting back several of their defensive players. Some of their cornerbacks are coming off the PUP list and could potentially return this week. So that looks good for the Denver Broncos defense. On the Dallas side, on the offensive side of the ball, all their wide receivers are banged up right now. Amari Cooper's dealing with a hamstring. CeeDee Lamb's dealing with a bum ankle. Michael Gallup's already been ruled out. One of their offensive linemen is ruled out for this week, I believe. And then we know that Dak Prescott was out last week. Cooper Rush came in and filled in valiantly for him. And they've said Dak's going to play, but I expect him to be a little rusty. I don't think he's just going to come out there and be, on point with his team after the layoff that he's had the last couple of weeks dealing with this injury and plus the bye week. So I just think that it allowed the Denver Broncos to stay in this game. And we know Teddy Bridgewater for the Broncos, he's not gonna put the ball in harm's way too often. He's usually pretty conservative. He's a decent quarterback like that. That's why he does cover the spread so often. And he can make plays. He can get the ball to his receivers, and they've got a few pass catching options on the Broncos. I think that they'll be okay in this game. I don't think the loss of Von Miller is really that big of a deal for the defense. He wasn't having that great of a statistical season anyway. I mean, he does put pressure on the quarterback. That's something they may miss. They traded for somebody right before Von Miller was let go, I believe, to fill in for him, and it shouldn't be that much of a decline in the level of play that they're going to get from the guy they traded for. I believe Vic Fangio will be able to scheme up a good defensive game plan. to try to slow down Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard and, maybe make Dak a little uncomfortable in the pocket. But overall, my main reason for this is that the number is just too high. I think plus 10 is way too many points, especially to the guy Teddy Covers, who's made me so much money over the last couple of seasons. So for my first pick for Week 9 of the Circa Millions, give me the Denver Broncos plus 10. So the second game that I like is the Los Angeles Chargers minus 1.5 heading out to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. I just think this is a good spot for the Chargers to get back on the winning track. They've lost their last 2 games, but they were against really good defenses, 2 teams that their coaching staff knows how to game plan for each matchup that they face. They don't, try to pigeonhole their defensive scheme against every team they face. And they were able to exploit some of Justin Herbert's weaknesses. But I just don't think Nick Sirianni's on any type of level with the 2 teams that, the 2 coaching staffs that he just faced the last 2 weeks. I think that this is going to be a good spot for their offense. I could see them putting up some points against Philadelphia, and this could end up being very similar to what we saw when the Kansas City Chiefs went out to Philadelphia and played the Eagles, where the game was close through the first half, but eventually punting the ball and kicking field goals against this Chargers team just puts you in a bad spot if they're scoring touchdowns, especially if Stanley starts to go back and they start converting on some of their third downs and fourth down attempts. I don't think they really went for it too many times against the New England Patriots. I think we might see some more of that this week. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles just looked like, world beaters against the Detroit Lions team that was just completely out of gas. They've just been so beaten down over the last month where they've played every week so hard right to the end to never see them get that first victory of the season. I think it finally just caught up with them, and the Philadelphia Eagles were able to take advantage of that, and they just, were able to put up a bunch of points on them. The Detroit Lions just looked completely out of it, and it really made the Eagles look a lot better on offense than they actually are. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball like they did last week against the Chargers. Even though the Chargers aren't that great against the run, their defense will rush the quarterback and stop the run on the way to the quarterback. I think that'll be enough. They've got the secondary to shut down Philadelphia's wide receivers, so I don't think that's really going to be much of a benefit for them. And I just don't. I'm not very confident in the Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff. I don't think they're as good as they may have looked last week. Meanwhile, I do think the Chargers are a much better team than what we've seen the last 2 weeks. I just, Justin Herbert's going to make those kind of rookie second-year quarterback type of mistakes, and that's what Bill Belichick, that's his game plan. That's what he tries to do. But this isn't the New England Patriots, and this isn't Bill Belichick that they're going up against. The weather in Philadelphia should be fine. I don't think there's much of a home field advantage for them. And it's a late start. It's a 4 o'clock start on the East Coast, which is 1 o'clock on the West Coast. So, if there's that circadian rhythm thing, basically they're starting a game at a prime time of what it would be in Los Angeles, where the Rams are training. So I don't think it's going to really have much of an effect. I don't really put much emphasis on West Coast teams going east. We see those teams do it all the time and they win. So I just don't think it's going to have much of an effect. The weather should be fine. And I just don't think Justin Hurt is going to be he's not going to be able to make enough plays to keep up with the points that the Los Angeles Chargers should be able to put up on this team. So for my second pick, give me the LA Chargers minus 1.5. So my third pick is the Chicago Bears plus 6.5 on Monday Night Football heading out to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. I just think that this Chicago Bears team, they're getting an extra day of rest, an extra day of preparation being on Monday night. It looks like most of their key defensive players that were out should be back. I'm really hoping that Khalil Mack will be able to play. He's such a difference maker for that defense. And I think that Justin Fields, he shows flashes of what he's capable of. That run that he made last week against the San Francisco 49ers, me having the 49ers last week had me, why I'm losing my hair. But you see the flashes of what he can do. If he can put it together for 4 quarters, Chicago Bears really have a chance to win this game. Getting 6.5 points on the road, that just seems like it's way too much, especially against the Pittsburgh Steelers team that was very fortunate to win that game last week against Cleveland. Cleveland had several opportunities to win that game, and if it wasn't for turnovers, they probably would have won that game. We know that Mike Tomlin, he's really good against the spread when he's an underdog, but when he's a favorite, his teams are below 500 against the spread. So I don't, there's not much stock I put in it with the Pittsburgh Steelers being such a big favorite at home. They just have no business laying 6.5 points to this team. Chicago's defense should be able to keep Pittsburgh's offense, to below 20 points. I believe the total in this game is only 42.5 or 43. So they're obviously expecting a low-scoring game. And when you're getting just under a touchdown, it's telling you that these games, it shouldn't get out of hand. One of these teams is not going to blow out the other team. So if the Chicago Bears offense can put together a couple of scoring drives, I could see them winning this game outright. And with this being 6.5 points, I just think this is completely too many points to be given the Chicago Bears. So for my third pick, give me Chicago plus 6.5. So my fourth pick is the Las Vegas Raiders -3 heading out to New York to take on the New York Giants. Now, obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard the news about Henry Ruggs and his situation, what happened out here in Las Vegas where I live. It's been all over the news here, our local news. The Top Golf place where he was at before the wreck happened is about 10 minutes from where I live. But I think that is why the Raiders, it's a good thing that they're not playing at home and that they're going out on the road to play this game. I think getting away from here, getting away from the media, getting away from this unfortunate distraction that is not the making of any of the other players, just the one involved in the accident. I think it'll be a good thing for them. It'll help galvanize the team. We saw it work when John Gruden was fired, that the team came out and they really came together as a unit. And I believe this unfortunate accident will have the same similar effect where it'll actually bring the team together, kind of almost a us against the world type of mentality. And on the other side for the Giants, they're dealing with a COVID outbreak. So we know Saquon Barkley's not playing. I'm not exactly sure which other players may or may not have contact tracing or may test positive over the next couple of days. But we also know that I think 4 out of their 5 top wide receivers are on the injury report right now, and several of them look like they're not going to be playing this week. So it just looks like the New York Giants are going to be really limited on their skill position players on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they played well against Kansas City last week. Joe Judge, he really put together a good game plan. But I think losing that game against Kansas City when they really had a chance to win it, it really is going to take the air out of this Giants team. And a lot of that motivation, that was a big game for them in prime time. I think that they, it's going to affect them heading into this week. Add the injuries on top of everything, and this just doesn't look very good for the New York Giants. We know Daniel Jones is bad against the spread. I think he's 5-12 now after the win he had there a couple weeks ago. He's 5-12 against the spread at home. We know that he doesn't cover the spread very often at home. And again, the Raiders, they do have other players on offense. Obviously losing Ruggs is a big part of that. But they still have Waller. Jacobs is getting back to form. They have Renfro, and they have their other tight end, Emerow, who filled in for Waller while he was out. I think we're going to see a lot of that two tight end sets, two wide receivers, and they're gonna have to play one of their tight ends as a wide receiver. And now that they lost their speed guy, no pun intended on that. But it's just one of those spots where I think that the Raiders, it's almost a benefit that they're playing a road game at this point because there's just been so many distractions and questions unrelated to football this week. Like I said, I live here in Vegas. It's been all over the news. They've been, digging deeper and deeper into this investigation out here. So obviously the players are hearing it from everywhere they go. And it'll just be a good thing for them to get out of Vegas, go to New York, and potentially, get another victory and help them, right now I believe they're 5-2. So, help them try to get closer to winning the AFC West. So for my fourth pick, give me the Las Vegas Raiders -3. So my fifth pick is the Atlanta Falcons +6.5, heading down to the Bayou to take on the New Orleans Saints. We know that the Saints are going to be without Jameis Winston, and not sure if Taysom Hill is going to be back out of concussion protocol. So I'm counting on it being Trevor Siemian as the starting quarterback. And as well as he played last week, and I was on the Saints, I think that was an aberration. I don't think he's going to come out and play that well again this week. Now, the Falcons do not have a very good secondary. They're not, they're one of the worst teams defensively. But the Saints aren't, the type of team that puts up over 200 yards in passing a week anyway. So they're not really the type to exploit the weakness of the Falcons' defense. And with them having essentially their third-string quarterback in there, I don't know how risky Peyton's going to be with his game plan. I think he's going to try to rely pretty heavily on Kamara and Ingram and maybe some short passing and see if they can keep this game close and win it in the end. The Falcons, they didn't do very well against the Carolina Panthers at home last week, but prior to that, their offense had been putting up some decent amount of points. Now, obviously, they've lost Calvin Ridley for the foreseeable future as he's had to step away from football. But they did get Russell Gage back. They've got, Kyle Pitts, Cordell Patterson's been actually a welcome player this season as he's been able to move around as like a chess piece and play him at different positions, running back, wide receiver, and it's actually been working for this team. The defense, I think for the Falcons, even though the secondary is not that great, their linebackers are pretty good. Grady Jarrett is still a very good all-pro defensive lineman that'll be able to put pressure on whatever quarterback is playing for the Saints. And Matt Ryan, as well as the Saints defense has played this season, he's very familiar with his defense. He's very familiar with the players, and he knows where the pressure is going to be coming from. And hopefully he should be able to, use that knowledge to help create a game plan with Arthur Smith that'll exploit the weaknesses that they do have and potentially win this game outright. But I just think with their third-string quarterback, even though the Saints won last week and the Falcons lost at home against the Carolina Panthers with their defense, Carolina's defense was a lot better than it had been in the previous weeks. I just think 6.5 points is way too many points for this Falcons team to be getting. So for my fifth pick, give me Atlanta plus 6.5. So those are my 5 picks for Week 9 of the NFL contest. I'll be sure to put any changes, if there's any changes that come up, if I have to swap out any teams, I'll be sure to add it in the comments below. And I'll also have it on my blog at deadmoneymedia.com, because who knows what could happen between now and Saturday when these picks have to be submitted with all the craziness that we've had go on this week. There's no telling what could possibly happen between now and then. So be sure to check in here and check in at deadmoneymedia.com. Hit that like and subscribe button. I hope everybody gets to make a lot of money this week. Let's enjoy Week 9 of the NFL season, and thanks for watching.